Is AI the calculator of our time? Yes, I think it is. There's a saying that I fully agree with that's going around that says it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's people that can leverage AI that will take your job. Calculators will need to adapt to this tool existing. I think the worst thing they can do is not incorporating that into their teaching and assessment methodologies. If they
Mm-hmm.
just say you're not allowed to use AI, they're not preparing these students to use those tools when they go into the workplace. So they're doing their students a disservice. They need to teach their students how to use AI ethically.
Give me
Well,
some examples. I'd love to hear.
I'd say there's four basic things you need to do. Step one, play.
It's another one. Dennis, my man Dennis. Dennis Kriel.
Play. How do you?
Are you related to, by any chance, to Jesse Kriel, the rugby
Of
player?
course, because he's a krill, but just because it's not starting, he's keeping the name high, you know, for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
claim in general. Yeah,
yes.
so I'm sure we were
Okay.
related somewhere. But not close enough that I can get his autograph, unfortunately.
Oh man, I was so excited because I know so much about you being a CEO. You're even a blacksmith, and you're
Yeah, you have
a
to keep yourself
lecturer.
busy.
And then I was gonna be like, if you are Jesse Creel's cousin or brother, because I played against him in rugby, I would have been like, oh my word, brownie points would be going your way. But no, let's get back to the reality. Um, Dennis, thank you so much for showing up on Professional Pillow Talk. This is going to be such a good conversation. And we already had a little bit of a tango before, and I got to sense check you. You seem like a good gent. But thanks so
No,
much for
thanks, man.
showing up, man. Like, how are you doing today?
No, I'm doing well. It's that time of year when everybody's running around getting everything ready before the festive season. So, yeah,
Mhm.
keeping us busy, but it's a good time. Looking forward to it. So, doing well, thanks.
Amazing. Awesome. Dennis, the internet is a beautiful place, but it's dark too. You are a internet fundi, a tech fundi. So I've done some digging. I've done some digging about you. You're a CEO, you're a blacksmith, and you're a lecturer. But I want to start off with getting to know you via the blacksmith story. Like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, you're the first blacksmith I've ever met. Like, are you
No,
some
well, that's
medieval
a
like king or something?
well. Why contain yourself to one, to one age? You can be in multiple ones. So, yeah, it's interesting story. I'm an avid reader of sci-fi and fantasy books. On my all the time. You have to do something between 3 and 4 in the morning, and so I've always been a fan and fascinated by blacksmithing as a skill set and as a artistry. And I was hunting for interesting books, and I found this book on how to start being a blacksmith. So, of course, I bought it, and it's just started as a hobby, making knives. Built my own little forge there in the garage. The first anvil I was hammering on was the back of a vise, that little block you have there, until I broke the table.
Mm-hmm.
I had to start somewhere.
Okay.
And
What is a
so that
forge?
hobby, forge is basically the area or the tool that you use to heat up the steel to about 1,200, 1,300 degrees Celsius. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
glowing, hot, nice orange color, just starting to get yellow, and then you can hammer it and basically persuade it to become what you want it to become with
Mm-hmm.
concussive persuasion, which is just blitzing it. So
Okay.
yeah, so me and my wife has got a nice understanding. I can do any hobby as long as it pays for itself. So then I started
Okay.
giving classes in blacksmithing because I was developing my own skills. And there's a saying that if you truly want to understand something, try and teach it. Um, So that was my next step. I started training people on the basics of blacksmithing. And then they wanted forges. So I designed forges that I could sell. And then they needed anvils. And then I designed my own anvils. And then the company grew
Mm-hmm.
to now the only company in the Southern Hemisphere still casting its own anvils and giving training in how to forge your own swords and Viking axes and armor and the works. So, but it is truly just, a passion that blossomed into a business. You can turn anything into a business if you're passionate about it. Yeah, so it's the story
That
behind it.
is,
Uh, you know,
uh-huh. That is so
and
unique.
yeah,
Like, sorry, go first.
yeah. Yeah, I just want to say what I love about it is steel is such a beautiful material to work in. Should leave a legacy. My son, when he turned 13, I gave him a sword that I forged for him myself, with, a message on the blade from me and his mom, a verse etched into the blade. That becomes an item that's generational, that's multi-generational. And he looks after it.
Mm.
That's a legacy that I can leave with him. So I think that's what excites me about blacksmithing as a artistry or as a something that you can do is the items you make last for a long time. If you work in the digital space, a lot of what you do now becomes old and irrelevant very quickly. And you're working a hard day's work, but at the end of the day, what have you got to show for it? And blacksmithing is different. It's working with your hands, and you leave something of value.
So interesting that you say leaving a legacy and steel, which is maybe the conduit or the boat of that legacy, helps with that. I was listening to something around watches. I don't know. Do you like watches?
Yeah. I love the
Yeah.
I love
So the
the,
Swiss,
I
yeah,
the detail in the
yeah, the detail around. So I was listening around, and there's a whole thing around gold watches. People are giving back their gold watches because um, originally the Swiss people were the the pioneers of proper watches because of the gadget they created around the tech, right? And then the Chinese came in with battery watches, and then that dropped the prices of like gold watches and that like the whole phenomenon around like a timepiece. But then the smart French, I mean the smart Swiss, came up with the idea of stainless steel watches and the detail around stainless steel, and people are now waiting years in advance to buy stainless steel watches, mainly around the efficiency and detail that you can, and the lasting factor around
Mm.
steel. So that's so interesting that you say that. And I literally watched that last night. I was scrolling the internet, and then my one friend's face popped up, and he was talking about why gold watches are being returned and people are waiting for stainless steel. So it's yeah, it's a nice mineral. But back to you, back to you. So I know that they say, you love the intersection between AI, education, and disruptive tech, right? And that is a beautiful intersection. And someone's going to be like, oh, wow, how could you love AI and education and tech? Because AI is so new. AI has actually been around for so long, right? It's been around for
Oh, it has.
more than a decade. And so it's so interesting. And that's what I'm so keen to dive into your world around AI, but education, which I feel I know a little bit about because, luckily enough, I was fortunate enough to go to school. And, I also love disruptive tech. But now this intersection where AI has become so accessible, AI is changing how we do things. And the bedrock of a powerful nation. So, like Nelson Mandela was like, if you want to change a nation, change education, right? Right. And
Exactly.
the big question is AI and education. It's definitely changing how we interact with content, for one. To lay up this conversation, what is your relationship with AI?
Okay.
And
So,
if I have to lay it up even further, like give me a detailed explanation on how you guys interact. Are you married? Is it a child? Do you go to dinner every day? Like, what is that interaction? What does that relationship look like?
And if we had to anthropomorphize it, put it into relationships that we can understand, I'd say it's like a colleague, you know, um, where that's very smart, but not very wise. It's I think the thing is people see that it's humans versus AI. Where the real magic happens is not people versus AI. The real magic happens when you combine
Yep.
human wisdom with artificial intelligence. Sure. Then you've got magic. Because what AI is capable of doing is taking large data sets and basically distilling the essence of that large data into patterns, because it's basically a pattern recognition machine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we can then interpret those patterns to see within our human wisdom, is it relevant? Is it relevant to this scenario? Is it useful? Is it wise? And that's why
Mm.
it's the combination of AI with the soft skills that we bring as humans, that really is where the magic will happen. So I want to now I think that answers that question, but I want to just bring it back to your conversation around AI and education. I
Mm-hmm.
love what AI is going to do to education, and it's going to disrupt
Mm-hmm.
education in a big way. And the reason why I am excited about it is because I think it's time. I don't think our education
Okay.
system is fit for purpose for the world of work that the people are going into.
Okay.
Because it's based on older systems of education. Our current system, where you've got a year group and they go through the factory that is the education system, is there to create educated factory workers. They need to be able to follow rules. They need to be able to learn something and then be assessed against that something. They need to be good factory workers when they walk out of schooling, right? That was the
Mm.
initial idea of our current school system. You know, Organizing them by age is very inefficient, actually, when you look at education. You should be organizing them by ability and by interest and by temperament and by in different ways so that they can achieve the maximum what they can achieve, not just because they are a certain age, right? So, but it's sufficient to put them in a little box. That's called, I said, you're 13, you should be here in school. And then you try and push them through this sausage machine that is the education system. That is not what we need now. We need people that can speak, think for themselves, work with other people, be creative, think in creative ways, take different fields that is not related and come up with something new that AI would never see because it was never trained to be there's no patterns that pre-exists that it can pull from. So
Mm.
to answer your question, how I think about AI in education is it's going to pick up a storm because suddenly you now can scale one-on-one tutors that
Mm.
knows your subject area and can have the whole internet as its knowledge base and can actually understand your students, where they are, their weaknesses, their strengths, and train them in exactly what they need. Now, a good example of that is Khan's Academy. What
Yes.
started these videos to train children on math and math capabilities, they've now brought in an AI that becomes a personal tutor for the students. And the students, if they're doing sums, that level will pick up, they normally get these wrong. It'll give them more of those sums until they've mastered that specific area. It will give them the support that
Sure.
they need. Right? Now try and scale that with a
Yes.
class of 32 children in your class. No
Sure.
teacher, no matter how capable, can do that. So that's on the teaching side of things. The other side is, and this is what you alluded to, is AI is going to disrupt how we assess capabilities. How do we assess mastery, right? How do I
Mm.
know that Jason have learned this textbook? Well, normally I'd give you a test, but a
Yep.
test is basically just regurgitating that information. If the teacher is worth their salt, they would have some application questions. They would give you different scenarios where you have to apply what you've learned. Um, but now, as soon as you want to do online teaching, I can quickly, ask the AI to solve this problem for me and copy in its answer. Um,
Mhm.
so we need to evaluate mastery in a different way so that we can see that this child have internalized or this student have internalized this content and they can apply it in different scenarios. So now I can't just assess that final summative assessment. I can now go and say, okay, do a project for me. How did you approach it? Show me your
Yes.
progress. Show me the process you followed. What prompts did you put into ChatGPT? I'm going to critique what ChatGPT told you. What did you create that is unique and a unique solution?
Yeah.
Now we're assessing true mastery of a topic.
Sure. We're gonna get back to that topic, and I like how you almost slam dunk the conversation where like this tech revolution is going to what did you say, stir up a storm, right? And it is.
Yeah.
I think I believe so too, and everyone is feeling that, like what the internet, like what the phone did to communication, what text did to messaging, what Facebook did to social media and the internet, right? It always, but this is a big one because AI transcends within most of these things: communication, learning, health, and fitness. It can live and change so many things. But harping on the idea of education, you're in a institution, a large institution, Pretoria, right? The University of Pretoria,
Yeah,
right?
University of Victoria.
Y- and it's a prestigious university. I, with my humble understanding of these institutions, always saw that you're gatekeepers to knowledge. That's why you want to go to Pretoria. That's why you want to go to Harvard. That's why you want to go to. That's where you are going to gain the right knowledge. Am I wrong? Right. That's what the universities are there for, because it's like, oh wow, you didn't go to university, you probably don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So
And now we're talking about
that's an interesting
previously, like,
question.
mhm,
Mm. So let's quickly run that down. So universities have basically um, three main value propositions. Why your question is why would you go to university, and then I'm going to relate it to AI and what's going to cause. So traditionally, and you're going to 1,000 years ago, your universities was the keepers of knowledge. You're absolutely right. You know, it's a amalgamation of all the leading knowledge on that field. Normally, it's a little bit behind because what's happening out in the field is normally, you know, a little bit ahead.
a little bit faster.
Yeah, we can have discuss that, but it's basically a silo of knowledge in the fields. And traditionally, you'd have to go to university to learn, Latin, and then read all the books and etc. With the coming of the information age, here's your challenge. Now, information is being democratized, right? Anybody can access all
Mhm.
the information on the internet. AI is taking that a step further. I can now train up my own personal AIs with all that knowledge. Just to give you an example, I've got three children, different stages of where they are. One's at two's at university, one's at school. They each have their own personal AI that I have trained up, right? With the relevant knowledge, with the relevant personality. The AI is not to do their homework for them, but to use Socratic methodology to ask the right questions and guide them through the process, and then help them where they need it.
Mm.
Right. So they each have their own trained up AI with its own persona, created little icons for it. So my daughter loves Stitch as a character, so hers is Stitch, and right. So because now you don't need a university to be a font of all knowledge. So universities are sitting with a crisis where, what is what is their reason for being if information can be found freely. They still have a value in the sense that they do research, original research, and there's a unique
Mm-hmm.
perspective around that. So there is value still in there, but that sense that they are the source of knowledge, is under threat. You could also go to university because of the university experience.
Mm-hmm.
Bunking class, going to the movies, maybe drinking a little bit
Yeah.
too much, or other creative experiences that you have. That is a university experience. And you actually see that a lot in the American universities where they sell the university experience. If you come to our
Yeah.
university, we've got like these frat parties, and we've got yeah, all the stuff that happens around that. And then what they're actually selling is
Mm-hmm.
not the learning that should be taking place, but the student experience. Get away from home
Yeah.
and come and make stupid mistakes. Okay, that kind of thing. Um, but that's their very proposition because they cannot compete about on the sort of font of all knowledge. And then the third one is accreditation. I've got a Harvard degree. Now, personally, I don't have one. I have a Oxford degree in education, Oxford Brookes University, and um, so they can see that, and that brings a certain understanding of the level of quality of education that I went through to get my master's degree. Right. So, but what they're selling the accreditation.
Mm.
Now, what AI is doing is it's undermining that first foundational one is where do you find information? And if do I need a
Mm-hmm.
degree if I've got AI that can be my tutor and my confidant and my source of knowledge, if I can access that, do I need a university degree? No. So they need
Mm-hmm.
to lean more into the accreditation or maybe the student experience. So AI will definitely affect that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, what you really should be learning at university is not the knowledge because of what we just discussed. What you
Okay.
should be learning at university is thinking skills and learning skills and soft collaborative skills like how do I speak to people? How do I do proper conflict management? How do I work in a team on a project? Yeah. How do I take my ideas and all the information that I have access to and put that down into a project where I'm working with 6 other people and one guy is just drinking and not doing what he should be doing? How do I conflict management? Because he's bringing all our marks down. Now I learn
Yes.
how do I manage people? How do I communicate with people? How do I manage my own emotions? So emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
creativity. That's really what universities should rebrand them as places where if you walk out, I know that I've got somebody that's going to walk into my teams in my companies that have emotional intelligence, self-regulation, they're creative, they can set their own goals,
Yes.
they have agency. That's what we need in the education system. And yeah, so AI forms part of that disruption that is happening around that. That in my companies that I run, um, I would hire more for attitude and emotional intelligence and
Mm-hmm.
culture, that's a difficult word to define, than skills. Because I can train skills. I can build you an AI that will train you on the skills that you need. But if you've got the wrong attitude, if you're entitled, if you bring in toxicity into my teams, then you're out. There's no way that I'm going to keep you if you haven't got those soft skills that FD in the past would never train for. But anyway, this is a
Yes.
big conversation around Gen Z and the challenge we have with this generation. But
Oh
I think that's all
no,
topic.
let's not get into that. But I love how you express the how universities need to adapt. Like those and those three layers, I actually didn't think of universities like that. I just thought of course the top layer, which is knowledge, and evidently AI is becoming a knowledge box, is becoming a tutor. The adaptation in the form of soft skills. That's the first time I've heard that. But then you'd always think haven't they learned that in high school? But they haven't, right? You can always improve your soft skills, and it's even like it's another level of soft skills. So that one I like that one a lot. But now let's say universities adapt and sell a more human centric experience when going to tertiary education. When you go into the workforce, right? Let's think about this whole thing about the calculators. Remember how the calculator,
No.
came in and like disrupted, revolutionized how you solve complex mathematical equations, which is a form of language. Do you think AI is what the calculator was for maths, what AI is to critical thinking, right? Because you can
That's a
prompt
good
how
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Is AI the calculator of our time? Yes, I think it is. There's a saying that I fully agree with that's going around that says it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's people that can leverage AI that will take your job. And
Mhm,
you know, if I can give you an example here, one of my companies is a digital marketing company where we do holistic marketing. So we take a brand or a company and we
mhm,
do everything from the logo and the corporate identity, the website, the social media, the paid ads, the AI chatbots on the website, the
sure.
automated email outreach that's automated and personalized by AI, everything. And we basically
Mhm,
run it as a holistic company, marketing company. And what I've seen internally is that as we are leveraging these AI tools to help us
mhm,
ideate, think critically, etc., our efficiency has doubled easily because I can now take AI, train it with all of the stuff that we've generated for one of our clients, and say, you are an expert on Jason's brand, right? You know
mhm,
Jason's voice, Jason's ideal client, his origin story, his vision, the mission that he has. And I've got this AI that's trained on all of this data that's basically being generated around your brand. And I can say, okay, I
mhm,
want to run a campaign for Jason. And these are the ideas. Fit ticket for me. Will it fit to his target audience? And the AI comes back and says,
mm,
I've looked at all your data and no, it won't. But if you tweak it this way, it will. Suddenly
mm,
it's not that I couldn't do it at all and I'm outsourcing my brain. It's just a different voice or a tool that I can use to test my own thinking. So
mm,
yes, I could go back to a logbook and work out that mathematical equation, but it's so inefficient if I can just use a calculator. And that's
mm.
where we're going. People that have the skills of prompt engineering or, working with these AIs, training up their own AIs, those ones will be the ones that outperform the ones that's not using and leveraging this technology, which is why we basically
Yeah.
created a platform where people can train up their own AIs in minutes and just give it
Mm.
information, give it a persona, and it will do what you need to do. Does that answer your question?
I just had it does. And you answered it towards the end, or the answer I felt like, when you like, I just had this rush and I was like, oh, I feel calm. You know why? I was like, wait, is he actually answering the question around the calculator? And I was like, okay, it's a tool. You said it's just a tool. So is a calculator. And why I had this like sense of peace is because I remember at school, they gave us calculators and they gave us difficult math questions. But the same question can be done with the same calculator, but two different people and get two different answers because of how they use the calculator. So, same thing with
Mm.
like AI. How you prompt engineer is going to give you an answer or it's going to give you an outcome. And that outcome is either going to be positive or negative. So that's why AI isn't the silver bullet where it's like, oh, wow, I'm just going to use AI and it's going to create content for me. No. It's not
Mm-mm.
going to create like
No,
it will create content for you, but will it create engaging content, contextual content? Will AI
exactly.
solve the specific problem that is needed? Only because you need to critically think while using the tool versus just use the tool. And that's what, like, the way
Exactly.
the word tool came to my, well, the way you express tool, I was like, that's so right. Like, it's so funny. That is so true. But let's go back to the classroom, right? So you've said universities need to shape the future learner and enhance their soft skills, which is very cool. But now the facilitators, which are still going to be teachers, how are they affecting AI? How are they influencing the way teaching is being done for students to learn in the next 5 years?
So I think if I can just change the question slightly, the um, hmm, educators will need to adapt to this tool existing. I think the worst thing they can do is not incorporating that into their teaching and assessment methodologies. Is they
Mm-hmm.
just say you're not allowed to use AI, they're not preparing these students to use those tools when they go into the workplace. So they're doing their students a disservice. They need to teach their students how to use AI ethically, you know, not
Mm-hmm.
get it to do your work and then say it was my work, but say,
Mm-hmm.
get it to be support or a tool like a calculator. Now I can have a much bigger data set and I can get to much deeper insights because I've got this tool and I'm using it correctly. So, and when I work with faculties like the law faculties, which love their books and their texts and so on, I think law is one of the areas that will be most disrupted in the near future with AI. I'm so glad
Uh-huh.
I'm not in that, working in that space personally. Um, but um, so getting back to the question is, um, educators need to rethink how they teach and how they assess mastery because AI is making it easy. And traditionally,
Mm-hmm.
an essay was write me an essay on this topic incorporating this theory. Okay. Now that's very easy to do with this new tool. Now
Mm-hmm.
lecturers go, oh, I've done this for 15 years. This was how I assessed if they know this information. Now suddenly I have to go and rethink about how I'm going to assess them. And if they don't upskill themselves and to know what AI can do, then what's going to happen is students are just going to run circles around them. And now they're trying to use tools like AI detectors to detect if students used AI. And then the students learn to just run it through a humanizer. And then, the AI that makes it not look like a AI. And then then they're going to be the next batch of lecturers that's going to have humanizer detectors of AI detectors. And then, it's an arms race that we've basically started.
Yeah,
Whilst the
yeah,
lecturer
yeah,
just
yeah,
goes
yeah.
back and say, okay, this tool is there. They can use it. I'll tell you a quick story. This is really interesting. So I was training lecturers. That's more the role that I had at the University of Pretoria, is to train lecturers how to incorporate technology into their teaching and learning. So educational
Brilliant.
technologist, futurist. Um, and I was training these lecturers, and I said to them, "Have you seen this new tool, ChatGPT?" And this economics lecturer said, "Oh, she heard about it, but what can it do?" And I said, "Okay, give me a question from your final exam, or that you're currently running." And she says, um, "I asked my students to critique South Africa's policy on power generation and the risks that it involves when it comes to ESCOM for the country." I said, okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
great. So I prompted ChatGPT and I put in, write me an essay of 800 words on this topic in this context in South Africa at a second year level. Okay. Good prompt engineering application there. And it wrote the answer. And this lecturer almost burst out in tears because he said that's my memo. I wrote that like, um, It's not hers, it wasn't hers, but it was good enough. It was at the level of how she would write it and answer that question. It didn't,
Yeah.
regurgitate her actual writing. But she said,
Yeah.
if I knew this, it would have saved me hours. And I said, now all your students have access to this for free. How are you going to change this
Mm,
assessment? So what she did
mm,
was she actually gave them this summary that ChatGPT generated and said, okay, now go and critique this for me. Where did it get it wrong? Where do
oh,
you think you could add value? So that is a beautiful
yes.
example of how a lecturer pivoted, incorporated this tool, and actually said, "Okay, I know you're going to use it correctly for me." And that's we
Mm.
need more of those examples of lecturers pivoting how they teach with this tool available to their students.
Okay, so then you're on a nice sailboat, right? I can see you sailing into the future because you've gone and said, okay, this lecturer has already um transformed the way she assesses. 10 years from now, Dennis, what does the learning experience look like? Where knowledge share and AI domination is 100 times fold than what we see today. What does that learning experience look like? Everything from the classroom to the assessment to the teacher. I'm all ears, please. I'd love to hear
Right.
what's going on in that mind.
Ooh, I love this because I love, it's you with the best stories wins. Okay, so um I'm going to paint you a picture because this is the best way to do this, right? So let's
Hmm.
say you're now at university, you're going to study, you're a first year student, you're walking into a university that's really embraced everything. And the first thing that you do as you walk in is that your personal AI, that is your educational AI, you've got other AIs that does your personal security and your health AI that's tracking all your health through all your Internet of Things, your ring, your Aura ring that sends all the information, and it speaks to your house AI that measures your urine every time you go to the bathroom for cancer markers, and it speaks to your
Sure.
entertainment AI that knows what shows you're currently like and what, looking at Jason on YouTube because he's a star, those kind of AIs that will pick up all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, but your educational AI now is transferred from whatever school you were in, and you're 16 because you were quite advanced. So you didn't have to wait till 18 to go to university. You're 16 and you walk into
Okay.
university, and your educational AI now gets a connection with the university AI who has all of this information and knows all the time schedules and knows what you want to go and study and knows what your aptitude is and where your weaknesses are. And your AI now relates to the university AI, this master AI, and say, here you've got a new student. What does, what do you have to do? And the university AI goes, okay, we've got these courses. This is the master plan that where you want to go in life that's related to your life purpose, your ikigai. And this AI says, these are the courses you need to complete. These are the people I'm going to connect you with so that you can get a range of different temperaments and emotion, and personalities. But I put you in this work group. You guys will have to solve these problems in the next 6 months. Here's all the information for your personal AI. And that AI tells you, okay, tomorrow morning at 8, you have to be at this lecture hall, which doesn't look like a lecture hall anymore. Like something standing at the front, one too many. It looks like a collaborative space with different tables on wheels you can move around and so forth. And your smart glasses that you have on tells you these are the people, it has an introduction to all of them. That information has been shared because now information and personal information becomes your valuable information, the value that you
Your
bring. uh,
transact, your like your currency.
Exactly. It becomes your currency. So, Google will pay you for your behavior information because it's yours and you could ownership of it. And if they want to delve you as a data mine, they need to pay for that value because you're the ideal client for them. So they want your information and what you look at and whatever. I think we need to move away from where we freely give away our information. But, if anything is
Mm,
free, then you are the product. Okay. That's a discussion we can for another
100%.
day. But um, so now you get in, and suddenly you get a customized tutor that tells you have to read through this content, watch these videos, do these assessment quizzes, play this game to prepare for tomorrow's session when all you 6 students are going to get together and now you have to solve a real world problem, bringing your knowledge and skills that you've learned. And you're an expert in mathematics. The other guys are experts in psychology. The other one is an expert in marketing. And you guys are going to work together to solve a real world problem. And through that, you're getting a real world experience. And the university's AI goes, okay, these are the skill sets we need to work on to prepare you for the world where you're going to make a difference. A little bit different than what we have today. That's how I would see it.
Dennis, round of applause. That is, and brilliant. Why? Is because it's not far fetched. You know,
So
you could have gone into this like, oh wow, there's chips in it, like all. You could have made it be a sci-fi because you do have a bit of a creative mind. You might be a Viking. I don't know, but that is actually accessible. That could be 5 years from now, right? That like 10 years.
the tech
That
is there.
literally could be 5 years.
Yeah. Tech is there.
Yeah.
We just have to build the platforms and the systems. And we need to change the paradigms through which we look at education and AI and data. And the tech is there. We can build it. You know.
Mm.
Yeah. By the
Where
way,
does
I'm a
it go wrong?
cyber Viking. Here we go. Mhm.
Dennis,
Right.
where
So
does it go wrong?
here's the dark side of that
Where
story.
does that dream, yeah, the dark side of that story, tell me.
Okay, so the dark side of the story. So here's the dangers and the dark side of the story. Is it's all to do without data. Let's say you're paying X amount for your entertainment AI. That's that's what you need. And you're basically looking for data as well. So you're paying a matchmaking AI to set you up with somebody that's compatible with you. So and you
Yeah.
don't pay your subscription to your security AI and that lapses and somebody gets in, hacks your system and your data and then steal your data, right? Now you've lost a big piece of currency or leverage because you know that your data becomes you. Um,
Mm.
or somebody maliciously creates an AI that subliminally gives you the message of radicalizing you to a certain ideology. You know, uh, anti anti technology ideology of we've lost our humanity because we've given up too much to AI, or you get into these virtual worlds where everything is custom made to speak to your fears and joys, and because all of this data is tracked and your personality is tracked, and you lose yourself in
Oh.
these ultimate Dungeons and Dragons scenarios, um, where you're the hero, and all of the self actualization and validation that you're looking for other people you find in the game, and you basically lose connection in the real world to real people.
Mm,
So there are
mm,
dark sides to this. I fully see them. I can see them. I can map them out for you. But this is why we
mm.
need to get into the tech and change the narrative so that we get to the utopian outcome and not to the dystopian.
Yeah,
And only when we fully engaged with this disruptive tech can we change the narrative and make sure the right thing happens. And that's why,
sure.
me with an educational background chooses to embrace this tech so I know where the pitfalls are, so I can guide in my own little sphere of influence the world to a better place.
Sure. We're coming up to the end, but I've got one or two more questions. You talk about yourself being a guide, specifically in the education space and the intersection with AI. Do you have a step by step process that you could share on how myself as a future educator, and doesn't mean I have to go into institution, but like, I start businesses, I've got a sister. What is your step by step process when looking at integrating AI into a teacher's life, which also probably could translate into anybody's day to day life? What do you look at first? How do you uh, apply second? And how do you ensure the right data, if that the right outcomes? What does that process look like when you go into integrating tech? And Cicely, yeah, you can give me
Well,
some examples. I'd love to hear.
I'd say there's four basic things you need to do. Step one, play. You learn about things by playing. If there is a new chatbot coming out, Gemini or, Elon Musk's XAI, sign up, play around with it, take it through its paces so that you get a feel, an understanding of what the technology can do and can't do. That's so step one, go and play. Yeah. Sign up to Sora, create some videos, see if you can create educational videos. You know, uh, those kind of things. Step two, um, then you can start learning. So learn proper prompt engineering skills for yourself. You know, three, go and apply. You know, use it to help you create assessments. Use it to help you create lesson plans. Use it to help you analyze your students. Run through some of the assessments and see if it can come to some conclusions on what they're missing across the board because you have dropped the ball when you were teaching this topic, right? And then fourth is start gathering data and learn how to use that data to go and play some more. Yeah, that's what I would suggest.
Love that. So let me see if I am a good student, right? So,
Yeah.
Prof. Dennis, you said that we should step one, play, right? Go play, go and find
Mm-hmm.
out what these tools can do and test if what they're selling actually is the truth, right? Then after that,
Mm-hmm.
after playing, learn. Learn about what you actually found fun and what you didn't find fun, right?
Yeah.
After learning, then assess your learning. So basically, make sure that what you learned is actually put into application. So
Mm-hmm.
apply those learnings, assess it, apply, assess, apply. And then lastly, but not least, is gather data. Gather the data that you need to probably enhance the playing experience. What did I get?
Yeah, you did very well. There you go. You don't need an AI teacher for that. You can do that just as a human. You see, sort of critical thinking going there.
Oh, brilliant. No, I'm not an AI. I'm not an AI.
Yeah, yeah.
Dennis, I'm going to say thank you so much. And I've got a little tradition that I always love doing at the end. But before we get into it, do you have a question that I should have asked, but I didn't?
Hmm. Okay, that's it. That's about that. Question is to the oracle you did it. No, I think we've covered this topic very nicely. I think one of the questions you could have maybe asked is, what tools are available out there to start creating your own AIs and start using the stick. I think, we did allude to some of them, and you can find that by searching. But, if anybody that's listening wants to go check it out, please you go to Verdant Tech, which is my company's name, and then you can go to chatbots.verdant.tech. And then go and learn how you can build your own chatbots and start playing around with the technology. We built that platform that people can play and apply it in different ways. So,
Amazing. Yeah, so that's VERDAN space TECH, right?
so it's
Verdant Tech.
yes, it's chatbots.verdan.tech, TECH.
But cool. I'll definitely put that in the show notes. But let's get to this final game, right?
Okay.
This is a game of speed, and intent, right? It's speed and intent. So, and I think you're a brilliant mind. I think you're going. Normally, I give my guests 1 minute. I am gonna give you 30 seconds, and it's either or. It's either this or that. You've got 6 categories, Dennis. It's either this or that. You cannot pass. You have to choose one, and I'm giving you 30 seconds. Can you? Actually, I'm giving you 29 seconds. Can
Okay.
you
Yeah,
do
that's good. Yeah, so I stop talking. You're making my time here.
it? Let's do this. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Food, sweet or savory?
Savory.
Travel, beach vacation or mountain adventure?
Mountain adventure.
Relationship, spontaneous date or planned getaway? 15 seconds.
Spontaneous date.
Fitness, morning workout or run?
Morning workout.
Mind, meditation or journaling?
Meditation.
Learning, podcast or books? 1 second. Oh.
Podcast on books.
So close. Oh my goodness. You got to 5. That is brilliant. That's really good. Well done, Dennis. That
I like
round of
it.
applause to you. Like, yeah, a lot of people, like, I give them a minute and they stop on like 3. They're like, relate. Oh, a planned getaway. Well done. I like that. Your mind is switched on. It's switched on, and you know you've got intent. I like it, Dennis.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it
Yeah,
was going to be
thanks so
hard.
much. Yeah. Oh, no, 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 not too hard. Dennis, any closing words that you would like to share for the audience, how they can find you, what you're working on, and yeah, please do share.
Yeah, so you're very welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can just Google Dennis Kriel. I'm the guy with not that much hair. And you can also find all my links on denniskriel.com. I think that would be a great place to start. Currently, what we're working on is automating marketing through AI. So a lot of those marketing processes that happen again and again, we can automate with AI. I'm working on creating a network of CEOs and founders within South Africa through the leadership boardroom, where we support each other and grow each other's businesses. Then also working on some education for students that want to learn about financial wisdom and how to apply financial wisdom between grade 4 and matric, so that they can walk out and actually have the financial maturity to engage with everything from cryptocurrency to investments to whatever. And those are a few things that I'm busy with. I've got 3 other companies, but I think we have time to discuss them. I've got an throwing company you might like, Jason. We do axe
A
throwing as a
what?
sport in sports bars. Axe throwing.
Oh, axe throwing.
So
Wow.
axes. Yeah. That's a nice one because we're
Sure.
forging the axes anyway. We can just as well throw them around. Yeah.
Wow, Dennis.
Yeah.
That
Check out
you're the
flyingfury.com.
you're the lecturer I never had. I wasn't the most studious student, right? But I love to apply myself, and I think you were the lecturer I never had, and I think you are the lecturer that the world needs. So amazing to have chatted with you. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know and I feel in my heart we're gonna do it again live. But for now,
Yeah,
have
we'll
a
definitely do that.
brilliant, brilliant rest of the week and 2024. Thanks so much, Dennis.
Yeah. Jason, thank you very much. One little story because I love telling stories, right? I used to teach IT, high school. And my rule was if
Hmm.
all of your work, I built my own learning management system and the students got all their work at the beginning and Monday. My rule was if you're finished with all of your work by Thursday, then Friday is gaming day, right? For my students. And then we would compete against LAN
Brilliant.
games in the, and my homework was always done, right? And then the other, I got
Oh,
into trouble because the other teachers would say, Dennis, your students that has IT didn't finish their math homework. And when I asked them, they said they had to work on their IT homework first. So, I hear you. I think you would have done well in my class.
I could feel it, Dennis. I definitely could feel it. Alrighty. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Dennis. Have a
Thanks,
beautiful
man.
one.
It's been awesome. Keep well.
Cheers.